The stream is about to begin.
All right, my teacher friends, I have for us the breakup letter tone swap exercise. I really loved this exercise. It was a ton of fun. I've never had so much hilarity in the classroom before. Here's the impetus behind it. I found that a lot of my students misinterpret tone, or they're a little tone deaf when they read text. And then that impacts the tone that they need to carry over in their writing. So they have very basic tone awareness: mad, sad, happy, glad. But when you throw in tier 2 level vocabulary into the mix, like pedantic, sardonic, nonchalant, it kind of goes over their head a little bit. So it's a two birds, one stone exercise in which they practice their tonality reads, but also their tonality writes as well. So you're going to get a whole bunch of different rhetorical situations in this breakup letter situation where you have two characters, Cameron and Riley. And either Cameron's going to be writing to Riley or Riley's writing to Cameron, and they have to gently break up using tier 2 level words to capture the tone of that breakup letter. So I'll model this a few times for us, and then we'll have your students give it a try. So sit in, strap up, stay tuned. I'll walk you through the whole thing from top to bottom. All right, my teacher friends, welcome to the breakup letter tone swap. Before we jump right in, keep in mind that below in the YouTube video's descriptors, you will find all the accompanying slides that are going to be forthcoming, as well as my tone bank. So I have a list of like 100 tone words down below, tier 2 level tone words to help us build our tonality reads and get more precise with our labeling of tone. So a couple of teachers in previous videos have said, Christian, can you include learning objectives and the setup just to unpack this? I need to have things up on my board when my admin comes in. So these are the learning objectives that I placed on my board. So we're going to practice manipulating diction, syntax, and phrasing to capture a specific tone. We're going to recognize how tonal shifts change meaning and impact in writing. So let's say during one of our think pair square exercises, we have the tone word nonchalant. So the breakup letter needs to be written nonchalantly, and then we switch it and we'll plug in a sardonic tone. So the tone shift occurs at that level. It's totally based on the word that we pull from the hat. And then we're going to collaborate in a think pair square. I'll walk you through what I mean by that in just a second, to generate creative layered text. In terms of the setup, I've alluded to this. You could put a hat, a bowl, a box, fill it with slips of paper containing the tonality words. Each of the slips is going to have a tier 2 level tone word written on it. So it could have like melancholic, sardonic, whimsical, earnest, pedantic, formal, objective, etc. I have a timer in my class, and it's just my phone, and I project it onto the screen. And you can take as long or as little time as you want for the pass. Once the exercise got cooking, we would pass our papers and switch out our tone words every 7 minutes. So in terms of the scenario or the prompt, here's what we got. Riley and Cameron have been dating for a slice of time, but the relationship is unraveling. Students will write breakup letters in a rotating set of tones. And what I've done, you'll see in just a sec, is I'll give you the rhetorical situations. I got a number of them, and they're really goofy and fun, and students have a lot of fun with this. But my students need a little bit of context and background to understand the formality of a breakup letter. So I've modeled this twice for us, and I'll get to my exemplars in uno segundo. Activity flow. So the rotation rules. Think pair square. I have my desk set in an arrangement of 4 in quads. And then I set this at 4 minutes. I found in running the exercise, we needed longer, so like 7 or 8 minutes. And then we would rotate and switch the tone. So each student draws a tone word from the hat. they're going to write a breakup letter from Riley or Cameron's perspective, it's determined on like what the rhetorical situation is, and then they will write the breakup letter embodying that tone as best as possible. In terms of the wrap up, have groups read aloud their final Frankenstein breakup letters. Lead a class discussion. Which tonal shifts were the funniest, the most convincing? How did diction, word choice, and phrasing drive the tone? What did you notice about meaning when the tone changed mid-letter? All right, so those are some of the things that we're going to be looking for in the wrap-up exercise. And the reads I found were hilarious, and this ended up being a really good like classroom morale, classroom community exercise, and it's got us loosey-goosey for larger things that I want to do, like Socratic seminars, Harkness discussions, and things of that nature. My kids are talking, they're out of their seat, they're loose. So a great exercise for the beginning portion of the year. So let me go through the rhetorical situations. Here's number one. I'll just read it. Cameron and Riley have been dating since homecoming, but trouble started bubbling up in the cafeteria. Riley has a very particular way of eating curly fries. They methodically measure them into spirals before dipping, then give a mini TED talk about each fry's aesthetic symmetry. Cameron, who just wants to eat in peace, finds this ritual excruciating. The final straw comes when Riley insists Cameron rank the fries from most philosophically curly to least curly. Cameron now faces the challenge of writing a breakup letter. The exigence is Riley's obsessive curly fry theatrics, which have made normal meals unbearable. The audience is Riley, who earnestly believes their fry commentary is profound, even enlightening. The purpose is to end the relationship clearly while minimizing unnecessary cruelty. The constraints, their peers already know about Riley's fry monologues, so Cameron risks sounding petty if the letter isn't carefully framed. At the same time, Cameron must establish that this is about more than fries. It's about incompatible approaches to life. In light of these dynamics, select a tone word from the hat and compose a breakup letter that embodies that chosen tonality. And we'll write a couple of samples in just a second. I'm going through the rhetorical situations. Here's number two. Riley has tried to be patient, but Cameron's footwear choices are impossible to ignore. Every day without fail, Cameron tromps down the hallway in a pair of oversized bowling shoes, the kind that squeak dramatically on the linoleum. Paired with Cameron's naturally large clown feet, the effect is both circus-like and disruptive. During a fire drill, Cameron's shoes honked with each step, causing the entire junior class to break into giggles. Riley, mortified, realizes this relationship may not survive the public spectacle. Riley needs to articulate why footwear can be the death knell of romance. The exigence is Cameron's refusal to wear normal shoes. The audience is Cameron, who thinks the bowling shoes are a bold fashion statement. The purpose is to end things kindly without sounding shallow. The constraint, everyone at school already whispers about Bozo and Riley. So Riley risks seeming cruel if they don't frame this breakup carefully. In light of these dynamics, select a tone word from the hat and compose a breakup letter that embodies that chosen tonality. So you can see here in my hat, I'm going to have a slew of tier 2 level words at hand, and they have to embody that tone, capture that tone in the breakup letter given the circumstances. Rhetorical situation number 3. Cameron has reached the end of their rope with Riley's new persona. Somewhere between biology class and gym, Riley decided they are Shock G from Digital Underground. And this is old school. This is like my generation. So students needed to see the Humpty Hump music video in order to make this work. They strut down the halls lip syncing the Humpty dance on repeat, bobbing their head with exaggerated flair and reminding everyone, do me, baby, do the Humpty Hump. Riley even leans into their prominent nose, pointing to it dramatically as if the entire school were their backup dancers. At first, Cameron thought it was quirky. Now it's a spectacle. Passing students film Riley for TikTok, and Cameron can't walk 2 feet without someone calling them Mrs. Humpty. Cameron feels compelled to break things off. The exigence is Riley's relentless public Humpty Hump routine. The audience is Riley, who genuinely believes the stick is iconic. The purpose is to end the relationship without sounding superficial or cruel about Riley's nose. The constraints, the entire sophomore class already associates them as a duo act, so Cameron needs to be clear yet tactful to reclaim their social dignity. In light of these dynamics, select a tone word from the hat and compose a breakup letter that embodies that chosen tonality. So in terms of like the flow of this, we'll tackle one rhetorical situation at a time. Every 7 minutes, we'll switch the tone and the students will pass their paper to the student seated to the right of them, similar to the Think Pair of Squares that I've run in my other videos. Here's number 4. Cameron thought Riley was the perfect match until bathroom etiquette got in the way. Every morning and night, Riley commits the same crime against hygiene. They squeeze the toothpaste tube from the very top instead of the bottom. This careless habit leaves mangled lumps of paste trapped in the middle, forcing Cameron to perform delicate toothpaste CPR just to brush their teeth. The waste piles up, and so does Cameron's frustration. The final straw comes when Riley grins with a foamy mouth and says, "It's just toothpaste, don't be so dramatic." For Cameron, this isn't just about dental care, it's about incompatible values. Cameron must compose a breakup letter that explains how a small tube of toothpaste has symbolized a much bigger rift. The exigence is Riley's refusal to respect the squeeze from the bottom system. The audience is Riley, who thinks their method is quirky, not catastrophic. The purpose is to break things off without sounding overly obsessive about toothpaste. The constraints, their friends already joke about team top versus team bottom, so Cameron risks ridicule if the letter isn't framed carefully. In light of these dynamics, select a tone word from the hat and compose a breakup letter that embodies that chosen tonality. And I got one last one here, rhetorical situation number 5. Riley's been dating Cameron since homecoming, but a troubling detail has been gnawing at them. Cameron is left-handed. While most of their friends shrug this off as irrelevant, Riley can't shake the centuries of superstition tied to left-handedness. From medieval Europe, where lefties were thought to be in league with the devil, to the very word sinister deriving from the Latin for left, Riley has internalized the idea that something unlucky lurks in Cameron's pen grip. When Cameron signed a love note with a smudged left-handed flourish, Riley saw not romance, but an omen. Riley feels compelled to write a breakup letter, but the challenge is steep. The exigence is Cameron's left-handedness paired with Riley's own fear of cultural superstition. The audience is Cameron, who sees their left-handedness as nothing more than a quirky trait. The purpose is to end the relationship while justifying a reason that most people would find bizarre. The constraints, Riley risks sounding intolerant, shallow, or even ridiculous, so the breakup must be framed with some attempt at seriousness or humor. In light of these dynamics, select a tone word from the hat and compose a breakup letter that embodies that chosen tonality. So the question becomes, how do you write a breakup letter? As always, with exercises like this, I like to Bob Ross my instruction and give kids a couple of exemplars. It's a really good practice. I think before I ask my kids to write, especially early in the school year, I really need to model this. So I pulled from the hat the word pedantic, and I'll run you through one of the earlier rhetorical situations. So it says this: Dear Riley, it has come to my attention through repeated observation over the course of our relationship that our chosen method of toothpaste extraction violates not only the principles of efficiency, but also those of basic domestic harmony. So you can see here, trying to cop a pedantic tone. By applying pressure at the proximal, i.e. top, end of the container rather than the distal, i.e. bottom, right? So really get pedantic. and you have created irregular accumulations of dentrophies throughout the tube. This necessitates what I have colloquially termed toothpaste CPR, a laborious redistribution procedure, which in a properly managed household would be wholly unnecessary. So you can see here too, one of the things that I've been running with my students is sentence patterns, and tone is often created through those patterns. So if you want to tackle my 20 sentence pattern exercises, get into the YouTube channel and equip your kids with those sentence patterns, because when you're being pedantic, sometimes your sentences need to go on and sometimes you need to truncate them, and it's good to oscillate back and forth between those to establish that tone. So the voice, the rhythm, and flow of being pedantic ultimately comes down to those sentence patterns. So moving on to the next slide. While you may dismiss this as just toothpaste, the implications are far more profound. Your technique bespeaks a casual disregard for conservation, order, and the equitable division of shared resources. Such negligence, when extrapolated beyond the lavatory, suggests fundamental incapabilities in our systems of value. Cannot in good conscience align myself long-term with a partner whose hygiene protocols reflect such systematic inefficiency. Therefore, effective immediately, I must terminate this relationship. I hope in future endeavors you will consider adopting the bottom squeeze methodology, which has been empirically demonstrated to optimize both resource extraction and relational stability. Respectfully, Cameron, right? So quick tips here. You can see there, if you're not going to Bob Ross your instruction, kids are most likely not going to approximate that. So I'm a firm believer that if you show your kids good writing and really break down how to write, it elevates their game. I think, their writing skills augment exponentially through the modeling process. Here's another one. So I pulled from the hat sardonic, and I'll give you this a situation here. Dear Riley, congratulations. You've managed to turn a household essential into a daily Greek tragedy. Who knew that a simple tube of toothpaste could reveal so much about the human condition and about your utter disregard for logic? Squeezing from the top. Really? It's as if you wake up each morning and think, how can I cause the maximum amount of chaos with the minimal amount of effort? I've tried to rationalize it. Maybe you're conducting some avant-garde experiment in entropy. Maybe you're auditioning for a role as the spokesperson for dental anarchy. But then you grinned at me, mouth foaming like a rabid Shakespearean extra, and said, it's just toothpaste, don't be so dramatic, right? So you can see the sarcasm in this, the sardonic nature of it. And that, Riley, was the moment I realized I'm dating the villain in a Colgate commercial. So here we are. You and your mangled tube on one side, me and my sanity on the other. This isn't about dental hygiene anymore. It's about survival. Please go forth and squeeze your toothpaste however you please. Just don't expect me to stick around and perform CPR on it every night. Yours no longer, Cameron, right? So once kids get reading this, it's so fun. I mean, we laughed hard. It was one of the more edifying yet goofy assignments that we did. So we're at the end here. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to drop me an email at writedivyWrite@gmail.com. Also, as many of you know, I teach full-time in a public high school in the Rochester, New York area. But I often travel to districts to do PD, either one-on-one with new, novice teachers, or in small groups, or the whole department. So if you want me to hop in the RV and come your way, I'm more than happy to. I love doing that. Often do Zoom consultations too with teachers. So if that's something you're interested in, we could talk about your needs and what I have to offer. Just give me an email at writedivyWrite@gmail.com. Really hope that you enjoy this one and have as much fun with it as I did with my students. I'll keep them coming. Take care for now.